to choose. The amount of anxiety that I've been through. Most nights are hard, but I press on. And I keep my head high and I carry on. Tell me how much longer and tell me how much farther do I have to go. I'm counting down the minutes and counting all the hours till I'm out of the rabbit hole.
So, it's officially been a full year since I first made one of these vlog-type videos, starting with that Wolkett one I made right before leaving for college, and I think it's safe to say that a lot more has changed in the past year than I ever could have imagined, between friends, school, work, the world, and myself, and I can't wait to see what happens next, for better or for worse. For the last couple of these videos I made, I decided not to add a voiceover, and I think that shift directly correlated with my lack of confidence during those parts of the year. I felt way too nervous to display the sound of my voice publicly, between the social density of college forcing me to confront my insecurities, classes challenging me to rethink the direction I wanted to take my life, and living in a world where existential stress was just a click away and seemed more overwhelming than ever before. I had too much on my mind to channel it into any sort of comprehensible writing.
Tell me how much longer and tell me how much farther do I have to go. I'm counting down the minutes and counting all the hours till I'm out of the rabbit hole. Lately I've been alone. Lately I've had no place to call home. I'll reside on the side till I've gained peace of mind.
Luckily, when I get like this, I have a few proactive procedures put in place to purify my despondency, such as listening to music, drawing, hiking, and talking to friends. Although, above all else, something that has really helped me recently was logging a list of things that make me happy in the Notes app on my phone. In the Vermont video, I talked about how I accumulated a variety of sources of happiness instead of focusing all my energy into one source of happiness, such as how in the past, I used to focus all my energy on doing things that would make me happy in the future, instead of happy in the present. By diversifying my sources of happiness, I was able to have other things to look forward to when one source of happiness flopped, in a similar way to how investors diversify the stocks they invest in. This approach is what inspired me to start keeping track of a list of all the things that make me happy, so that whenever I felt that tunnel vision type sadness, I could have a simple list to open my eyes to some of the things I have to look forward to. Although in the same way that making your own cheat sheet for a test is a form of studying makes the cheat sheet itself irrelevant, that same catch-22 can be applied to writing a list of things that make you happy, because by doing so, you're already more aware of how much you have to be excited for. The list is still great though, as I found myself occasionally looking at it whether I'm happy or sad. Either way, it's a solid alternative to my faulty memory, and I thought there was no better way to wrap up this series of videos than to recap some of the best memories I've logged in that list in the past year since I made that first video.
You to me are sweet as roses in the morning, and you to me are soft as summer rain at dawn. In love we share that's something rare. The sidewalks in the street, the concrete and the clay beneath my feet begins to crumble, but love will never die, because we'll see the mountains tumble before we say goodbye. My love and I will be in love eternally. That's the way it's meant to be. All around me, I see the purple shades of evening, and on the ground.
One of the first memories I've written down from college was one of my friends saying that people are stressful and it's easier to just not socialize with them. I responded, "But you're talking to me," and they said, "But I like talking to you." Then there's just little things like talking to someone in the library, or in hallways between classes, or at the bagel station in the dining hall. I loved spending time in the dining hall, watching it snow from the inside and sitting there all morning, doing homework and drinking tea, watching people pass through. Some of my favorite moments during the first chunk of college were off campus, like on the beach, or on hiking trips, or shopping downtown, or going to the drive-in movie theater where we're all cuddled up in the trunk of the car, wrapped in blankets, sharing M&Ms and popcorn from the same big bucket. When I came back home during fall break, the most memorable moment for me was hugging Connor and my best friends. During fall break, I spent the day with two of my best friends from robotics team. We went apple picking and drove around aimlessly, running into tag sales, random parks, and ice cream shops. I remember feeling so content that day, just meandering around the state. On a similar note, on one of the first days of winter break, my best friend and I drove all around Connecticut, following scenic route signs, listening to Hamilton, visiting a cute coffee shop, driving through pretty towns with street front stores and decorated street lamps, and walking a hiking trail that traced the edge of an ice-covered lake. After being away from Connecticut for so long, this day of exploration really made me appreciate the state so much more than I ever had before. After winter break, we went back to start up the next semester, and this section of time contains a whole bunch of little morsels of happiness, like seeing everyone at the winter ball and drowning myself in the chocolate fountain there, or listening to someone next to me in my programming class aggressively flirt with this guy every class with absolute zingers like "you have to add me back on Snapchat." I also finally remember walking through the suburbs and UVM at midnight with friends, or searching for one of our friends' phone in UVM, or going to a party with a friend and looking at each other whenever someone said or did something stupid, with him taking a drink each time, visiting friends' apartments, studying alone in the top floor of the library, and connecting with friends via poop maps are all just some of the memories that I will really cherish from this past year at school. Then during spring break, I went to visit one of my best friends in Minnesota for the first time, which was so surreal. It had been a while since we'd last talked, so meeting in person felt like reuniting with an old friend. One of my favorite moments of the last year was walking through his town at night as it snowed. They were the biggest snowflakes I'd ever seen, and the sidewalks even curved at some parts to go around larger buildings, which was another thing I'd never seen before. The next day, I was on the couch at 6 a.m. in the dark next to his cat when I got the email that we wouldn't be coming back to school. Once I got home, we had online classes, which were boring and stressful at the same time, and work, which was stressful at first since everyone was all tense and confused.
Life's a losing game when you don't play. Don't hold your cards too close is what they say. And love is just another leap of faith, but I jump right in. I took the train, I took the car. I didn't know just where I'd fall or where it'd take me. Another step, another stare. I'll never know if I'll get there, but just maybe. I want something more than restless mornings. Getting by so boring. Take another look before it goes. Days are only footprints in the snow. How far away can I walk till I'm way too far from home? I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I want something more than restless mornings. Getting by so boring. Take your time, enjoy it. Every fleeting moment. Getting by so boring. I took the train, I took the car. I didn't know just where I'd fall or where it'd take me. Another step, another stare. I'll never know if I'll get there, but just maybe. I want something more
I'm really gonna miss everyone from work when we eventually go back to school. I love those guys. Some of my fondest work-related memories include eating Wendy's in the parking lot by myself while watching the weekly Girlfriend Reviews video, sitting with my coworkers on the concrete at the garden exit as our shifts ended together, watching the sunset behind the surprisingly pretty parking lot, or spending a rainy day shift in the garden booth with my friends surrounded by empty aisles of flowers. Another one of my favorite memories from the last year would have to be visiting a couple of my best friends in Rhode Island. After talking in a hot tub all night, I drove home on empty streets at 3 a.m. on super low gas, me and the car, and right as I was about to run out, after checking 3 different gas stations, I finally found one that wasn't shut down. That 2-hour trip went by so fast, probably because I was on the verge of sleeping the whole time. Then I got home, sat down for 1 second, and slept through my entire shift that day. Then one of my friends snapped me and said, "Heard you slept through work. Nice. Fuck capitalism." It was a worthwhile trade-off, missing work to have a memorable experience. One of my older cousins said that if she was my age during quarantine, she'd travel everywhere, particularly Mount Rushmore. While a road trip didn't exactly come to fruition this year, I definitely think I made the most of this summer.
He doesn't see her. He sees right through her. Oh, she doesn't know who he is. No, she doesn't know what he's up to. Oh, her heart gets broken every time, every time. She doesn't know who he is. No, she doesn't know what he's up to. Oh, she doesn't know who he is. She doesn't know who she is.
Experiment. This is so cute. I love it. Okay. He's alive still.
I wanna know why you said you'd call me, but you never did. I was sitting waiting at the phone. Talking to you was my only wish. I wanted to talk to you, but now all I feel is blue. And every time I sit next to her to act so cool.
Oddly enough, in a year so different compared to any other year in my life, I found myself returning to things that I hadn't done in years, such as renting a beach house in Old Lyme. We used to go to Old Lyme every year, but we hadn't gone in like 5 years, until just a few months ago. I loved the quaint beach town atmosphere and the promenade of biking and walking to get around, and our little cabin we would always rent, and the beach, I guess, but my favorite part was always the spot that we had found on a walk a couple hours from the public beaches, where the sand was soft and clean, and the water was light blue and clear, topped by a sleek gray raft. It almost looked tropical. Of course, when we returned this year, it was filled with shells and seaweed, the raft was gone, and you could barely see through more than a couple of feet of water. It was still nicer than the public beaches, but it was a lot less tropical than we'd remembered it being. And I keep wondering, did we just remember it being more beautiful, or did it actually change? It's hard to say, but either way, I'm sure there's some sort of deeper meaning to be contrived from the situation.
Every time we spend, it's not fucking fair. Why?
Returning to Maine was another thing we hadn't done in about 5 or so years. We used to go yearly with our whole family, but that slowly stopped over time. One of my favorite little parts of our trips to Maine was that every year upon arriving at our aunt's cottage, there was this unique feeling of pulling into the driveway late at night where everything is quiet and damp, like it's been waiting for us for the past year. Or in this case, I guess, like 5 years. Another thing I found myself returning to as I've been stuck in my house with nothing to do is Destiny. I know, I'm sorry. Destiny, you get the best of me. Time and time again I return incessantly. I'm obsessed with thee. You're like a cancerous obsessed to me. Despite yielding no loot, I assess your themes, you're testing me. Sometimes loving you is as painful as stubbing your toe 3 times consecutively. I digress, you see. You provide comfort for me, I confess. Even hating you can be a cozy thing. You may be a pest or disease, but I love you, Destiny. Sorry, that game means a lot to me. My point is, I returned to a lot of old things this year. While it was a year of change and new developments, from starting college to getting new neighbors, to people leaving and coming into my life, to progressive movements progressing and quarantine happening, it was also, for me, a year of reminiscence and reflection and reliving. Maybe returning to all these old places and routines was my way of coping with the enormous number of changes that happened in the past year. Even making these videos has sometimes become a source of comfort for me, which is exactly why I want to move on to something else. We don't live nearly long enough for me to want to stay in the same spot for too long, as I'm sure many of you will agree. Change is good. At least that's what I keep telling myself.
Holy shit.
When we graduated high school, they gave us these shirts with the names of everyone in our class on the back of them, and the words, "Our Last Chapter," printed confidently on the front. For some reason, that always rubbed me the wrong way, as if they were declaring that high school was the end of our story. To me, graduating high school felt like I'd finally finished my first chapter, not wrapped up my last. Anyways, my brother didn't want his shirt, and they gave me the wrong size, so now I have 2 oversized shirts with words plastered on the front that I despise irrationally, but that are way too comfy to not wear to bed. So for the past year, I've been sleeping wrapped in a reminder of how not to view my life. Don't make graduating high school the end of your story, make it the beginning, my shirt would tell me as I went to sleep wondering if other people talked to their clothes too, whispering back, "Don't worry, shirt, I won't let you down." This past year has certainly felt like the beginning of a second chapter. I can't believe it's already been a year, but I also can't believe that it's only been a year. Anyways, I'm gonna call it here on making these types of videos. It's been fun, but it's time to move on to something new and let my phone storage take a breather for a bit. I'll see you guys later, in whatever happens next on this crazy planet.
Work my brain, then I'm going back to my grave, and I'm certain that I'm gonna die this time. No doubt is left inside my mind tonight, so I'm just gonna wait for nausea to set in. I'm pacing out at 11. The friendly girls are trying to comfort me as if I'm a depressed chick at a frat party. Two-faced bitches never lie, and therefore I never lie. Diagram missing triangle for me tonight, because I don't know what to say. A sickness by another name. But with luck, it would at least look much more tame.
Let's see how personality works. Bill Woodruff here has something on his mind. He wants something. In fact,
I've got to work
and it's dark out. But don't you worry, I'm just being cool, like everybody else around this school. And maybe I wanna see
What's up?
but then again, an isolationist and on an accidental like Japan before they went and traded stuff to other lands. And doe-faced bitches never lie, and therefore I never lie. Diagram this and triangle, but the biblical kind did not sign because I don't know what to say. A sickness by another name wouldn't be sweet either, but
You gotta push the sign.
I
can't read it. You want your
What do we mean when we talk about personality? What is your personality? It's the way you get along with other people around you and with your changing environment. You want certain things from other people and from environment. And the way to go about getting those things reveals your personality. For example, did you ever want to go one place when the gang wanted to go somewhere else? What did you do? How pleasant was your personality? Did you ever want so much to make a good impression on someone? What did you do? How effective was your personality? Did you ever feel alone, out of place, when you wanted very much to be part of the group? What did you do?